So here we have the graph of f of x. We want to graph negative 1/4 f of x. So first of all, we see that that's outside. What that's going to do is it's going to flip our function over the x-axis and compress it vertically. One of the things you're going to find that's easiest to say about when those things happen, all we're going to do mathematically is we're going to multiply all of our y coordinates by negative 1/4. So if I take a couple of points on here, first of all, if I take 0, 0 on my red graph, what happens if I multiply y by a negative 1/4? Where will that point go? If I multiply it by 0, it's going to stay the same. That makes sense? So we're going to have this point also on our new graph. What would be another point that would be easy to multiply by a negative 1/4? 1 and 1. You'll get fractions, but we can do that. Let's say we take, if I look at this graph, 2 and 2. Do you want to do 2 and 2? What would happen to 2 and 2? Where would that end up? The x wouldn't change, but if I multiply 2 by negative 1/4, I'd get negative 0.5 or negative 1/2. How would I label that on here? That would be right there. Now I'm having to estimate. So what might be a value that I could choose on my red graph that would be easy to label on my blue graph? Four and 4? And 4 and 4 would end up at 4 and negative 1. So if I do that, well, it's not too bad. It would be right here. We're going by 2's. We could go 8 and 8. And 8 and 8 would end up at 8 and negative 2. Now, so far, we've only done points on one side, but can you see that it looks like it's going to be this? Does it make sense that the other side's going to be the same? Yeah. Because you could take something like negative 8 and 8, and it will go there. Now, if we were describing what's happened, can you see that it's been flipped over the x and then compressed? Yes? Good. And anytime something is compressed, it's compressed as if there's like a garbage truck squishing it towards the axis. Now it asks us to write the domain and range of both graphs. We're going to assume there's arrowheads on here. The domain was everything. The range was y is bigger than or equal to 0. Again, if you want interval notation, you can do that as well. For our blue graph, our domain is still everything. Our range now is y is less than or equal to 0. And a similar thing happened. If you took your range and multiplied it by negative 1/4, that's what you would get. It would get flipped over because it would all be negative values now. The 1/4 actually didn't change the range, but it does change the shape of our graph. All right, question number 3 is similar to that one. Anybody recognize what equation our red graph was? What parent? So that's the absolute value of x. They just gave it to us in function notation. But our function was the absolute value of x. And what's our blue one's equation? Our blue one's equation would be -1/4 absolute value of x.